we weren't going to lose because our goal was.
Darrell fires. He's got number 2, Reginald Brakeman. Touchdown, Golden Bulls.
On their neck.
Damn!
That's cold, man.
Damn!
That's cold.
Ooh.
Cold.
Yeah, man. Cold world, no blanket. Well, depending on who your team is. But for most of us, we're sitting here on the sidelines. But hey, there is a lot to talk about of D2 HBCU football action. We have seen history made, or we will see more history made soon. But before I get there, go to history. We'll talk to Mr. Berg himself. Kris, how you doing? How's life on the road treating you?
Good. All is good. It's playoffs.
Playoffs.
Playoffs. Yeah, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. For everybody who doesn't know, this is the D2 football show on HBCU Game Day, where we cover HBCU football, the Division II landscape. We do have a special SIAC show that debuted this year, the SIAC Sit Down with Jamie and Sly. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, please do. They go really deep in there. We'll talk about them as well here. But for sure, make sure you get that in-depth knowledge there. And please go ahead, as you guys are watching, hit that like button. And let's get started. So, Kris, we first off, we had our championship games last week, as we outlined. Coming in, Albany State, the SIAC Blue Blood, taking on Benedict, who's I guess a new blood. They've been there for a while, but they never won a championship until recently. And in their post-Chennisberry era, second year, made it all the way to the SIAC championship game. Their only loss all year was to Albany State. And Kris, this was a game that started off like it was going to be a blowout and ended up tight. Talk to us about that game.
Yeah, when you think about this particular game, you first think about what happened on the first round, the first time they met each other, and it wasn't really even close. And you just wondered, with Benedict, could they do enough to slow down that Albany offense? And they had their chances. They slowed them down some. A 22-16 win for Albany isn't like, lights out or anything, but Albany just has a lot of tools, and that really stands out to me more than anything. It was definitely a better output in this game from the passing game from Benedict. They were kind of on par, Darius Ocean and Isaiah Knowles, but it's just the little things, and Benedict just couldn't pull enough together to get it done.
Yeah, Kris, this is Albany State team that only this year their lone loss was to an FCS school, and we know you're not in favor of those games, but it happened. And Albany State actually had a chance to win that game against the Florida A&M team that is looked a little bit better than maybe people thought a little while ago. So hey, it's hard to top that resume, and they were rewarded for it in the playoffs. But we'll get to that in just a second, because next up we got to talk about the CIAA, where we had kind of a similar thing. Johnson C. Smith nobody would call them a new blood, but they've been around since day one, but they've got some new life. And Virginia Union is a program that has risen back up over the last couple of years. People were ready to crown them as a dynasty last week.
He who shall not be named.
People were ready to name them as a dynasty as late as last week. As we talked about the other day, maybe they will be one, but that's on hold for right now. Right now, they were not treated as such on Saturday. You and I were both at that game. Talk to me your thoughts about it. I got some thoughts as well, and then we'll go from there.
Well, in this game, I think it's kind of like you had another rematch of a matchup in the regular season, just like Albany Benedict, and you wondered, what could JCSU do to slow down a VU squad that's, kind of snuffed them away, over the course of a game. It wasn't immediate or anything, but this time JCSU came out with a lot of energy, and I think you kind of sensed that even before the game started. Just how much they seem to be really hyped up for this game versus VU that was a little bit more business-like in their approach. Back and forth, this game was tied 14-14, but the way they got there was a little different because it took VU kind of helping out the offense on defense and that interception of Kelvin Durham to set up a for field. Um, to me, JCSU committed to stopping the run and forcing RJ Rosales to pass, and he had sort of mixed results. On the other side, it was really Kelvin Durham and that plethora of wide receivers that really got them going and hitting some big shots down the field. And so, B. Proctor kind of he took over as the game went on and ended up being the most outstanding player in this game. And yeah, I mean, before basically JCSU gave VU a dose of their own medicine. They kept pulling away slowly but surely, and that last touchdown you saw to open the show was sort of the cherry on top. They didn't need it, but they sent a statement at that point. So kudos to what the Golden Bulls were able to do in winning the championship.
Yeah, Chris. Well, hey, I've been saying it all year. We saw Smith last year. Wondered if it would happen again this year. It has not. We talked about last week too about how that pass defense of Virginia Union was there to be had, and they strummed that thing all night long.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said last week, I picked Virginia Union. I don't remember if you picked Virginia Union, but I said, I think Virginia Union is probably the better team, most experienced, but maybe Johnson C. Smith is a team of destiny. And hey, here we are a week later, and congratulations to Johnson C. Smith for championship number 2 in year 127 of your program. Hats off to you. Those guys, Coach Flowers and crew, finished the season 10-1. Got their get back game against Johnson C. Smith. Against Virginia Union. I got that in their pocket. They have won 2 of the last 3 there as well. And set the table for a lot of again, and I joke with the Johnson C. Smith faithful, but it's a chance for them to get a chance to Charlotte to really get behind the team. Obviously, we've given them a lot of spotlight here on HBCU Game Day. I got Wiley done a great job with brick by brick that series, and if there was someone I was happy for this week, it was him. He believed in JCSU, and I just kind of laughed it off. And hey, man, so a salute to him. And they're talking real big down there in Charlotte, as they should. CIAA champions, and with a chance to really go far in the playoffs. So let's before we get to that word playoffs, we do have I did get a chance to speak with the head coach of Kentucky State University, because they were the one team that was in the playoff picture that was not in the championship game. Well, I guess if you count Fayetteville State, but we all knew they weren't getting in. So, Chris, we had Kentucky State. Obviously, last week we talked about the controversy surrounding them and surrounding their game, our proposed game with Delta State. We'll definitely get to that. We're gonna put a pin in MEAC Mike's comment. We'll definitely get back there in just a second. But Kentucky State, Felton Huggins, the head coach. Had a chance to talk to him. His team did what they needed to do against Shorter, even though they were hate watching over there at Delta State, praying for a downfall, praying for a slip up, but it did not happen. And they took care of business against Shorter. So let's hear a little bit about we talked about it previously, but let's hear a little bit more background from it, and then Kris and I will be back after this. So let's go.
By chance, we didn't get in, but he wanted to hitch his wagon, tell a tale on that.
So you guys had a game against Shorter, everybody knows now, and you guys went with the conference mandate and chose to play the game against Shorter, and you guys got a lot of criticism for it.
Yep.
Unfairly,
criticism from one side, but
yeah, and that's where I wanted to talk about, because me being a media guy, I just the whole situation, I looked at it as like, well, this is very one-sided. I don't see anywhere where they just kind of went where this coach just kind of went off and started railing on you guys after his team lost a couple games in a row. But again, you guys have been in that discussion for months that you didn't know you weren't going to get in the championship until the day of, so they could have never had a game with you guys anyway, because you wouldn't have won that game. And then I didn't see anything where they actually approached you guys to talk to you to get an understanding of what you guys were doing. Obviously, that's
very selective outrage.
Right. So, how do you deal with that, first of all, being the coach of this program, knowing that you guys haven't ducked any smoke at all? You played the top team in your conference. You played you played an FCS game. You guys were going to play a game in Puerto Rico that didn't work out, and you guys ended up going up to New Hampshire on the road, long bus ride.
Bus ride. We flew, but we actually took multiple flights. So, like, literally, we had guys on 8 to 10 different flights because it was last minute. But it was a brutal travel schedule.
Yeah. So for you, knowing all the hard work that you guys put into it, I mean, just how did it make you feel? And then your guys, I'm sure that probably had to motivate you guys to really, hammer this thing home.
Well, the first thing, man, it's funny is it don't take much to motivate our guys. You give them somebody kind of talking noise and trying to say something about them, about their character. It just gets them, fuels them to go out there and want to compete. The second thing is I was totally open and honest with our ball club when they kind of found out everything that was happening. And I told them literally the whole rundown of how everything went down. And as far as that, but they already know, for me, I'm the most competitive human being on planet Earth. I don't duck no smoke. I never have, never will be. Our schedule and resume shows that we don't. I would just say, man, for us, we were very transparent. I stand by everything that we did. And I definitely commend my AD and our institution and our commissioner, Anthony Holloman, and the Conference of Carolina commissioner. Nobody even asked them, okay, how was the agreement? I would just say this: things were communicated very, very ahead of time. I have no reason to tell a tale on that. Even when we first previously talked about this in early May, April, it was communicated about, again, the conference mandate that we had at the end of the season. Told them we was out of contention with any of those games. Definitely will play. Even to the point where we got on a run over a month and a half ago, we were very proactive. Definitely had communication with their AD and him himself. Even to the point, I would just say, me and him talked, the head coach at Delta. We talked a week and a half before going into the Valdosta State game. And I would just say he knew that we communicated with him, because he didn't realize that he told me he'd already been looking for games. But, for me to go out there and have selective outrage because you want to pick and choose, and then you try to come back and feel like we're low totem pole, low on the totem pole, or low hanging fruit, that don't sit well. But we did everything we were supposed to do. Our commissioner also they didn't really understand that from the conference mandate and that agreement that, it was shorter, but it also was a mileage stipulation. So, not to overrun people's budget, it was a mileage stipulation on the amount of miles for a further team to come, because that would cost them a lot of money. And so that's why it ended up being shorter. So, but at the end of the day, we did everything that we were supposed to do. In the contract, it clearly stated that as well. And so at the end of the day, I would just say I feel bad for his ball club, because he had a chance to be proactive and he didn't. He had a chance to have clarity and clear things up, and he didn't. He wanted to hitch his wagon and kind of beat his feet, but he had a whole month and a half, 2 months. He could have been selective with his outrage, and he didn't. So we did everything we were supposed to do. And so at the end of the day, you know, if we ever get a chance to play again, we'll play again. But I'll just leave it as I guess they did thought we were real good people.
Yeah. All right. So that was just a little bit of my interview with Felton Huggins, the head coach at Kentucky State University. You'll hear more of that on the next episode of Verified Sources with SJG right here on the HBCU Game Day Network. So please make sure you guys tune in for that. We had a really great conversation. Just beyond that, I'll take in there, Kris. As we get ready to move to that, but just before. Your thoughts on what you heard and just kind of, Kentucky State getting in and did you fit, was there any part of you that was, I don't want to say worried, but thought that maybe this, I call it a smear campaign, to be honest with you, because it was pretty one-sided, if that would keep them potentially out of the playoff scenario?
No, I mean, there's been a lot of chatter this year about the playoffs and across the country, honestly. And I think, some of us tried to tell folks that, the things that they wanted to talk about are not part of the criteria, whether they drop an 11th game or pick up a new opponent. Okay, the committee only looks at the teams that you play, right? And to me, Kentucky State, was in the driver's seat. I mean, they decided that they wanted to go through the conference mandate and follow through that. And hey, I mean, I think one of the questions I have that's unknown that I kind of seen enough, like some of the chatter, but did Kentucky State have to pay Delta for not playing that game? That's a question that I have. But outside of that, to me, and there's always two sides to every story, right? And there was other media outlets that kind of talked about, oh, well, Kentucky State hasn't said anything. Well, just because you don't say anything doesn't mean that you're guilty. There's two sides to every story, and so, Coach Huggins decided to speak when he was ready to talk about it, and good for him, because in the end, Kentucky State was the one on the 7 line. I mean, they didn't have to play that game. It's now, granted, will Delta ever sign to play a game against them? Who knows in the future? Who knows? Or change their contract language. But in the end, I just think that it is what it is.
Yeah. So, a lot of excitement there at Kentucky State University, just like Johnson C. Smith. This is their first foray into the Division II NCAA playoffs. So congratulations to both of those programs for breaking new ground. Really just a fun time to see some unfamiliar names, finally get a chance to have their day in the sun in the playoffs. And so we will talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. But let's go to something else and something else that we can't ignore. It's a real thing. It's really happening. And this is the transfer portal. We will call this segment, It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. Woo. You're supposed to break in somewhere, Kris. Come on. I know you got
Steven!
All right. So listen, we have the transfer portal is booming. And I know when most people talk about the transfer portal, they will talk about the Division I, but Division II is red hot. And there's some teams, man, there's a freight train there's a transfer portal stop right outside of Bluefield State and Livingstone for sure. And we'll talk about this, but as we go through, I'm looking at some of these names. We're looking at Bluefield State. We got Bryce Kuntz, their quarterback, who had they threw for some yards. We also have over at Bowie State, Elijah McKenzie, who's getting a lot of interest from some Power 5 level programs. A new addition And we got this news courtesy of our guy Clarence. Keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Kevin Taylor, one of his favorite players, has hit the portal. Yeah, man, and even Brevin Caldwell of Johnson C. Smith, who, a couple years ago, he was their main guy and a breakthrough guy for them. Talking through some of these names, Kris, who jumps out at you? Was there any surprises? Or, what are your thoughts on what we've heard so far?
Some of these weren't really surprises. It was only a matter of time for the season to end. Kenyon Garner, the Defensive Player of the Year in the CIAA, hit the portals, getting a lot of Power 4 interest, who really stands out. Man, Trevon Hester, I think that was a little bit of a surprise to me, to see him go into the portal. He was out this year due to a surgery at Wichita State. And
they don't have a coach right now,
Well, yeah, fair enough. Joshua Campbell, the kicker punter at Virginia State, had a really good, solid year as well going into the portal. At Lincoln, another one that they're losing some talent. Hamas Duran, the starting quarterback at the portal. Kyrie Tyson was like 4th in the league in receiving yards. He's out there as well. Caden Thomas, one of the linchpins on the defensive line for Fayetteville State, hitting the portal. I think you hit the big one with Elijah McKenzie. Also Traquan Johnson, who was coming on pretty late. I didn't realize until I looked at some of his numbers. He had 853 yards of total offense for Elizabeth City, not just rushing, but also pass catching out of the backfield. Just transferred from Shaw. Now he's, out the door looking for greener pastures. And so at Elizabeth City. So quite a bit of movement there. This list is, kind of being updated, almost every day, every other day over at d2football.com. So, definitely there was a lot of folks that were really interested in this last year. As some of these folks decide to find new homes or they return back to their schools, they'll be updated for that too. So it'll be just interesting to see, especially with the portal rules that changed this year versus last year, what happens. There were a lot of players who didn't end up anywhere. I mean, I think that's the other thing. And there were some who went through spring ball and ended up transferring again. So you just don't know what's going to happen. But it's fun to watch. Interesting to watch.
Yeah, another big name that you didn't mention, Chris Jones, the defensive lineman from Livingstone, who also doubles as a short yardage back.
Oh, David Jones. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about him. Yeah, that's another big one that figuratively and literally who hit the portal.
Yeah. He showed his offensive prowess. I think we got a clip of that here, Kobe.
Good God, that's a big old front. Go. Oh, and they gave it to him. Oh, touchdown! Oh my God.
Yeah, man, that was a tough loss for them. Livingstone is one of the schools that kind of every year, man, they seem to lose some of their key players. A lot of this stuff, it's interesting. Some people are seeing people in the portal and they're like, oh, this, that, and the third. Why should they leave? They're not going to go D1 or whatever like that. But a lot of this stuff is financial too. You got to remember most of these D2 guys are not getting full rides. And so, if there's a chance that you can have to pay less, I mean, it's not necessarily NIL money, but it might as well be, when it comes out of the bottom line, especially with everyone, really looking at student debt and things like that. And then, when we look at the things that were recently put out today, as far as professional degrees and whatnot, man, that money piece is going to become more important than ever. But it's not just players that are hitting the portal. As we know, we saw Robert Massey resign the day after another tough loss to Fayetteville State, and also a couple other guys to take note of. A big change over in the SIAC where we had Aaron Kelton. He is the head coach. He was the head coach at Savannah State. He's been there for, I think he played his full 4-year contract out. And they've after they came back from D2, they had D1, they had a bit of success, but since then it's tailed off tremendously. And this year was a year that people were looking at. Maybe they would come back and maybe they would come back and get get some redemption there, but just weren't able to push through. I think they were 5-5 this year. Was it 4-6? It's kind of a middle of the road team. You win some, you lose some, and hey, they decided that it was time to part ways. Any thoughts there, Chris? Were you surprised by this, or? I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to get an extension. It's kind of hard to get an extension when you have a losing record, or I guess that's the way. I don't know. Your thoughts, Chris? Chris, did Chris pause on us? That good old hotel Wi-Fi got Chris. So we will come back to that. But the coaching carousel is not only, and I know this is our D2 show, but we also have an NAIA coach in the HBCU ranks that that is transitioning as well. Not the big transition, but the transitioning parting of ways. Let's say that Langston University has parted ways with Quentin Morgan, who got quite a bit of time there at Langston, the NAIA HBCU. He had 10 years there, got them into some playoff runs, and really re-energized that program. I believe he is the second winningest coach all time in Savannah, in Langston University history. But last couple seasons they kind of fell off the horse. I think they won 3 games this year, maybe 4 games last year. So it's tough, man. It's tough. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants a winner, even if they're not getting that type of support. And the reason I wanted to bring that up tonight, too, on the D2 show is because, I mean, hey, he's proven himself over his career to be a good coach. Again, it wasn't exactly the ending that he wanted, but he could be in the run for some of these D2 jobs, I would think. He is a Langston guy, so it's got to be a tough thing to get let go from your alma mater or part ways or however they want to put it, but that is the reality. And I see we got a question from Blue Jacket for Life. How long do you think WSSU and SSU will take to hire new coaches? Well, I can tell you, Winston-Salem State University will not be long. It should be before Christmas for sure. There's a board of trustees meeting that is going to take place the beginning of November, and I see that Chris is back in, so I'll let Kobe pull him up. So Chris, they were asking how long do you think WSSU and Savannah State will take to hire coaches? I know WSSU, they want to move this quickly. I heard it directly from the chancellor who talked to supporters last week. So I'm hearing that there's a lot of former NFL players who are interested in the gig, even though, generally we're seeing a lot of folks at Division I, but there's a lot of interest there in that job. And then obviously I'm hearing a lot of alumni have put their names in the hat as well. There are some people who fit both. But I know we got a really good indication of what they're going to be looking for over at WSSU. The chancellor said that, they're looking for, obviously someone who can come in, understand where college athletics is, where the portal is. They talked about, looking at potential Division II coaches, as well as some coordinators at that level, as well as some position coaches at the Division I level. But again, I'm hearing there's a lot of interest overall in that job. Now, Savannah State, I know a couple of years ago, actually, when they hired Kelton, that was one of the things. He got hired very late because his predecessor actually took a job at, I think it was Virginia Tech. He actually took a job at Virginia Tech as an assistant. And so I'm not sure if he's still there or not. And that, but I think he didn't get hired until like April of that year. So it's tough when you do that, especially now with the portal and things like that. But Kris, any of your thoughts on the coaching carousel? Will we see? Are there potential? Are you hearing things? Will we see more guys? More positions open up. And I also talked about Langston's coach, Morgan, who got released. Could we possibly see his name in some of these searches? And would he potentially be a good fit for Savannah State?
Well, I mean, I'm not hearing a whole lot. And I think, to me, if some moves would have been made, they probably would have already been made by now. I think right now it's more about who's going to get let go at the next level and who gets elevated at this point. I think, when I look at the Winston job, I think that there's certainly some folks who would be, sort of fit what you were talking about, the NFL and alums. I also think that there's some coaches out there with that are alums that have coordinator experience that I'm kind of interested in. I mean, Barry Tripp comes to mind for me as a potential good candidate. Carlos Fields out there as well. But they're also, they're young coordinators, right? And do you take a risk with that? I'll just mention this. It's in the Division II landscape. There's a lot of risk and a lot of gamble that you do have to take. You got Chris McCullough, who's at University of Texas Permian Basin, who's one of the youngest head coaches across all the divisions, and he's in the playoffs. And so there's something to be said about even some of the new blood that's out there that may know how to relate to the players of today as well. So, it's Division II. You're giving, a coach a chance in a lot of ways. You kind of saw that with Lamar Manigo at Shaw and what he's having to build over there. Because they were going to go with another person they were familiar with, and then it didn't work out. And that's to me, that's what it's all about right now. Do you go with a retread? Or do you try something new? And sometimes that gamble to try something new really pays off. And so who knows? But those are a couple of names that I was thinking about when it came to Winston State.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think both of those guys are great. I think, to me, I look at where the CIAA is going specifically. It's an offensive league. It's an offensive league, and you can try to build a defensive powerhouse, but you still got to score some points. And I'll be honest with you, after our last two coaches who were very much defensive-minded guys, conservative in their offensive philosophies, even though, we saw Winston have some ability to toss the ball around, I want a guy that's going to go for some points, man. I mean, because what did we just see at the end of the CIAA championship? Maurice Flowers and those guys were being aggressive. They weren't just trying to run the clock out. No, they were trying to put a point down your throat. And, I just think that's what we need. Also, there's another name that's out there as well, Torrey Woodbury, the special teams coordinator there, special teams guru. He's also got a Super Bowl ring. He's an alumnus, and he played in the NFL. Chancellor also talked about she wanted someone who was going to be a fundraiser and get the community involved. And, man, you got a guy from Winston, played at Winston, made it to the NFL, coached in the NFL. I don't know if you can get any more community involved in that. So we'll see where that goes. That job should be sold up pretty quickly. Haven't seen a lot of transfer portal guys in Winston. I mean, we talked about Hester, but there's a lot of talent left on that program, and so we'll see what happens there. A lot of excitement, but we need some excitement over on 601 South Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. We don't need somebody to, I don't think we need a retread for sure. I think we need it. All of our great head coaches have been first-time head coaches, so I think there's something there. But we shall see. All right, guys. So now let's look forward quickly because we got to let Kris off the hook. He's got some business to handle. So we have not one, not two, not three, but 5 HBCUs in the Division II NCAA playoffs. Kris, we will start. Let's start with Kentucky State and Newberry. Your thoughts on this game? Kentucky State is going to have to travel this time, as I talked with Coach. It's only a 6-hour bus ride, which isn't that bad to them. It sounds like murder to me, but not that bad for them. Tell us about their opponent and your outlook on that game.
Well, Newberry is a team that is I call them the 9 lives because they seem to let their opponents get up on them early, and then they sort of clamp down and they snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. I think if I remember correctly, it's like 5 games or so that they were behind and they came back to win, especially in the fourth quarter. And so you can't really let them off the hook early. You got to stay on them because otherwise they've just shown the ability to wake up and get some points on the board to advance. And so they have a really good wide receiver core. They're okay in the run game, not anything flashy, but it just gets it done. To me, one of the big things that came to my attention, only had 3 turnovers all year. Whereas Kentucky State has I think it's 14 interceptions on the season. And they have had opportunities where their defense has put their offense in really good positions. And so if you're Kentucky State, you kind of have to stay true to what you do and force turnovers, which would be uncharacteristic for a Newberry team to do. If you're able to do that, man, you actually may sort of break the spell on Newberry that some of their South Atlantic Conference foes couldn't do. If you could force some turnovers of Newberry. If there's probably an area to exploit for Kentucky State, it's probably the running game. To use the running game to their advantage with Chad Elsie and company to do that. So if they're able to do that and not necessarily keep it close, but take the lead and kind of stay on that, then their chances are pretty good.
Yeah, so there's that. Got Benedict back in the postseason after a year's hiatus, 9-2. They've only lost to Albany State. They will take on Wingate, which we have seen in the past. Actually, I think and talk about the ghost of playoffs past. Wingate was one of the teams that knocked Chennis Berry's guys off of their perch when they were number 1 a couple of years ago after beating Virginia Union. Kris, talk about Benedict and Wingate and what you kind of see in that or Wingate, as they say over there. How you kind of see that going?
Well, ironically, in this series actually even at 2-2. Didn't realize that until I started doing research. Things to look out for Wingate. They had 2 losses, a two loss streak, and then they just reeled off a bunch of wins to close out the season. This is a team that has a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard wide receiver. So that screams a lot of flexibility in their offense. They are also pretty stout on defense, and that to me is a typical trait of Wingate, is that they can make plays to stop opposing offenses. And so, to me, if you're Benedict, the last time you met, I think it was 23-6 was the score. when you look at the game against VUU that Wingate had last year, they were in the 20s in that game. So you got to find a way to get a notch A2 and not in the ones column, but the tens column if you really want to have a chance. I just don't think that, Wingate's going to score less than 20 points in this game. So you got to match that somehow.
Right. So that'll be another game. And then Albany State taking on Valdosta State. Valdosta State started off the season almost with a loss to Clark Atlanta. And they did lose to Johnson C. Smith. And there was a point where you're like, was this as great or as good as win as you thought? Well, Valdosta State's in the playoffs. They beat Delta State. Beat them. And, they won the does the Ghost have a conference championship game?
No, but it was a de facto championship game.
Oh, okay. I didn't think so. I didn't know 4 conference teams had conference. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, Albany State taking on Valdosta State. Traditionally, they've been a power, but they're in transition. We had Tremaine Jackson, who was lighting things up, who's another D2 guy who is lighting things up in the HBCU world over in the SWAC, has his team in the conference championship game. What are your thoughts on Valdosta State traveling to Albany State in the playoffs this year? This seems like the year to get them.
Valdosta is probably one of the hottest teams coming into the playoffs. At one of the points in this year, they were 2-4. They had lost to the likes of USC Pembroke, in addition to JCSU, had a bye week, came out of the bye week, and they just started swinging people down left and right. And so took down North Greenville, which is another playoff team in Super Region 2, West Florida, West Alabama, Delta. And then West Florida, they have to go and outscore them, and not just like, it's like a 20-17 type game. I mean, they had to put up 47 points to outscore for West Florida to take the auto bid. And so, when you look at them, you got Jameson Holcomb, the quarterback. They got 2 pretty good wide receivers and running backs as well. A lot of speed on that offense, and a defense that has found ways at times to shut people down. The question is, what Valdosta State team do you get in round 1? Do you get the one that's been, really hot, or do you get the one that was 2-4 to start the season? So, it's going to be real interesting, because as soon as I saw them take down West Florida, I already knew where they were going. It's too easy of a matchup for the for the committee with these two.
Come on, other Rams, Golden Rams, because I've been seeing people call them Rams. No, their name is the Golden Rams. Put some gold on their name. There's only one D2 HBCU Rams. There's only one HBCU Rams, period. All right, so now that we got that straight, go please handle Valdosta hate, aka the fake VSU. Thank you,
Steven. I mean, this is like the greatest hits of all of the HBCU foes that we've encountered over the years between Wingate and Valdosta the same postseason. So
our powers combined. Come on, Captain Planet. All right. Kris, man, as we get talking, I know you gotta go, man. Kris, you know what? I got called an OG this week twice, 2 times in 3 days, man. 2 times in 3 days, man. Once at a basketball game, kids just like, hey, OG, blah, blah, blah. And then today, Kris, I'm walking, minding my own business. All of a sudden, this kid just pulls up to me. He's like, hey, OG, are you talking to me?
The original.
And he's like, I guess I gotta cut the gray out. He's like, yo, he was like, do you think Wilt scored 100 points? I started to be like, do you think I was over there? Like, how old do you think I am? But yeah, anyway.
Back in the 1900s, during my day.
Right. Man, I tell you. All right, let's get back now. Let's go over to CIAA, Chris. We have Virginia Union. They did not complete the mission to get their third straight. It's a tough thing to do, but they are in their fourth consecutive year of the playoffs. The first 2 years they were not able to win, including a home loss. This year, last year they were able to go on that run and win a pair of games. And this year they are third in Super Region 1 as the CIAA and the SIAC are now in different regions, and it paid off with 2 bids for the CIAA. They are 9-2, and they are going to place California, PA. Pennsylvania's, I don't know, Kobe's a Pennsylvania guy. Pennsylvania is so weird. They have a California and an Indiana of Pennsylvania. What's that about? Who does that, Chris? Anyway, your thoughts on this game?
Well, I thought that, VU may have gotten the shaft a little bit because, California is not really a 6 seed, in my opinion. They're more like a 5, but they weren't going to match them up against Indiana because they play in the same conference and on the same side of their divisional format, PSAC West. So they shipped off California instead of sending a Northeast 10 team down to VUU. That's what we got. Cal is kind of the Vulcans are kind of hot and cold at times. They beat Frostburg, but then they have some weird losses at the same time. They don't pass the ball a whole lot for a ton of yards.
Well, thank heavens with you, Virginia Union.
Yeah, I mean that matchup kind of favors VUU in a way. You can imagine that they're going to try to line up to try to stop Curtis Allen. If you want the Harlan Hill, this is the time. This is the time to make a statement. If you want the Harlan Hill, and so it's actually not a bad matchup for VUU in this game.
Okay. All right, yeah, man. Because if you got a quarterback that can pass and some wide receivers, VUU is in trouble. If you got a defense, that's the thing. All right, and then let's finish up with Johnson C. Smith, CIAA champion Johnson C. Smith. This still don't sound right. All right. Anyway, they're the champs. They're hosting a home playoff game, the first ever in the city of Charlotte. Hell, outside of high school, it's the first playoff game Charlotte's seen since pre-pandemic. Your thoughts, Chris, as they take on Frostburg State? Our friend Mike says they're going to be in a tough fight with those West Maryland boys from Frostburg State. They need to start fast and impose their wills. Your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, the Bobcats come into this in a similar situation to JCSU. Both have made – Frostburg ain't been in Division II very long, and they had a great record like in their first year or two, but they did not qualify because they were reclassifying. So this is their first time into the playoffs, the same as JCSU. This is their quarterbacks pass for about 1,700 yards. They have 4 wide receivers that have had at least 400 yards of receiving yards apiece or more. And they got a rushing attack that, it's very stout. I think their leading running back has almost 1,000 yards and another one that's got like 700, if I remember that correctly. This is a pretty strong offensive team. The Mountain East Conference is kind of known to have like these high-scoring games that we used to know existed in the PSAC in the mid-2010s. And so I would say that in a case like this, man, JCSU's defense has really got to be up for the challenge. And also, you hope that on offense, they don't try to just overly rely on Bobby Smith because they're going to need to get that ball down the field. What they can't do is they can't afford to get down by double digits early. Because then, JCSU is going to be put into a spot that, we really haven't seen them in this year. So except for against VUU Part 1, and we saw how that turned out. So yeah, they're gonna have their hands full against a Frostburg team that definitely knows how to get offense. Normally I would say a team going into like an HBCU team going into the playoffs for the first time, it doesn't fare very well. But I don't know, man. I mean, Frostburg's in the same situation, so I feel like that almost kind of cancels out. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Johnson C. Smith fans have discovered football after 127 years, and they're pretty darn excited about it. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, as we said here, Kris has to get off at 8, and we brought this show to you on Thursday, so we'll be keeping up with all the action on HBCU game day for sure. Please let us know what you guys think. Let us know how many times before you guys everybody in the chat. Tell us how many teams are getting through to the second round. Tell us how many teams are getting through the second round. You guys got a minute to do that. Kris, give me in your pecking order of the teams that we from lowest to highest that we expect to get to the second round. I'll put you on the spot here. So
lowest to highest. If 5 would be Benedict, 4 would be Kentucky State, 3 would be JCSU, 2 would be VUU, 1 would be Albany State.
Okay. All right. Clarence says CIAA goes 2-0, which would mean, I believe, Kris, if I'm not mistaken, that would mean we would get round 3.
We were gonna round 3. Oh man, that would be wild.
That'd be spicy, especially after
the first time. And it would be the first time that the CIAA has won multiple playoff games by multiple teams in playoffs.
Yeah,
so
man.
That would be a heck of an accomplishment for the CIAA. Just like it's a heck of an accomplishment to get 3 SIAC teams into the playoffs this year.
Yep. It worked out. A lot of people this time last year, they made some changes to the Division II format. A lot of people, if you read between the lines in D2, which you got to do sometimes, weren't too happy about folks getting auto bids and the expanded field. And this is kind of why, and then you add in the breaking off of the 2 HBCU leagues off of 1 into 2 super regions. And here we go. So Mr. Hartwell says all SIAC teams. So we shall see. But let us know what you guys think. In the meantime, in between time, we are going to get up out of here. Appreciate you guys so much for rocking with us. Make sure you guys hit that like button before you leave if you have not. If you're listening to this on podcast form, leave us a review. And we will catch you guys in the next video. Good luck to all the HBCU teams. We are rooting for all the HBCU football teams this week. Now, next week, who knows? If they all handle business, then there won't be any. We won't be able to root in one game. So catch you guys in the flip side. Kobe, take us out, man. Peace.